What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today on Genesys Wednesday, I am bringing you my updated profile for magnets. Now, I did take magnets to my last Genesys event. I was able to get first place. This is the build that I've updated a little bit. So just as a bit of a preview, the cards that I've kind of taken out that required any points really was Nibiru, Dagusto Emerald, Blot Dragon. Now, Blot Dragon being 33 points, I felt that it could very easily be sacrificed to open up a bit of space in the main deck. What this does leave me with is this build currently totals to 82 points. So I've got 18 points to play around with. Whether I want that to be 3 Nibirus, I can add that into the side deck, would be not an issue at all. If I wanted to start opening up the door to maybe like Fualosses, or if I wanted to open up the door to like more of a breaker option, which I quite like the idea of, like I was highly tempted to play Shadow Fusion. And the reason you do that is you play Shadow Fusion and you play the fossil cards. And the basic combo is, you'd activate Shadow Fusion, you'd send the Earth monster that searches out Fossil Fusion, and then you'd send Shadow Hedgehog. Then your Shadow Hedgehog would grab you your Shadow Beast, which means you would make Shekhanaga, and Shekhanaga would have that monster negate by having that beast in the hand, which I thought would be really, really kind of cool. And then what you do is you search out your Fossil Fusion. You can activate the Fossil Fusion, especially with the amount of rocks you play, and you work your way into the Fossil King, and the Fossil King gives you piercing battle damage, and it gets to attack monsters twice. And I was like, yo, this is so uber aggressive, I really want to try it. So that's something that I need to test back out, like something I played way back when Fossils first came out. And the only thing I couldn't quite figure out is where I would find the space for like the 7 cards in the main deck. Now, if I wanted to do that in the main deck, I would have to sacrifice the Valkyrion, the Berserkion, the Alpha, the Magnet Warrior as well, the Delta, and you'd really shrink down your Magnet involvement, which then kind of takes you away from being a Magnet deck. So I thought I'd stick with this particular build here, show you exactly what I've got, break it down a bit. It's quite similar to my first place version, if you did see that over the weekend as well. But this one I'm going to show you, give you the breakdowns, explain what I've gone with, why I've chosen them, and then go from there. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you miss out on any more upcoming content. So starting off with the Magnet Warriors themselves, I'm not going to spend forever on this one just because I've already gone over them before, but 3 betas, 3 Sigma minuses, and this time I've bumped up to 2 Sigma pluses. I'm actually quite happy playing 2 Sigma pluses. I think it came up quite a few times through playing this, and I'm actually really happy to just play it too, because there'll be times where I do hard open it and I don't want to neg that advantage from the hand, but then it also gives me the grind state. It means that I didn't need to focus on always recycling this card with the bonding spell as well. And then I've got 2 Omega Plus, 1 Epsilon, 1 Delta, and then Alpha. So if you really wanted to kind of trim the space down, you could get rid of Delta, Alpha, and then you'd also get rid of your Berserkion and your Valkyrion. Because if you're being brutally honest, you don't need to play the Imperium one. The Imperium is basically a really nice end piece, but then if I'm playing the aggressive go second, I don't need the Imperium on the field. And to get to the Imperium, I need to make it a little bit awkward. I need to do different routes in order to do so, like the Alpha to search a piece, or the Delta to banish 3 to summon a piece, and then just other ways of searching out the level 8s as you go. I'm not saying it's bad at all, which is why I'm still playing it, but I feel that if you're like, yo, I really want to try the fossil version of this deck, what would you advise cutting? Well, straight away, these would be 4 cards I'd advise you cutting straight away, and you'd probably get the deck closer and probably push it to a 42 card deck just because you're going second. Because, believe it or not, Shadow Fusion, 0 points. Shekhanaga, Fossil Fusion, all 0 points. Like, all of the fossil cards are all 0 points as well that you'd want to add. So, honestly, you could very easily give it a go, and I might be tempted to do that at my next Genesys event. But honestly, I still wanted to keep it as a magnet deck with the Adamancipators featured as well. So we've got 3 Conduction Warrior, Linear Magnum plus minus, and 1 Tellusion. Tellusion is still a really good disruptive card and a really good disruptive option, especially when you're going to go through your Sigma minuses and pluses very easily. But again, this was one that I was always torn to when I was playing this. I was like, okay, I want to try and set up the Imperium, but then I'm like, actually, maybe I want to go for the Tellusion. So if you were to make this a go second version, you'd probably solely focus on Tellusion. You'd get rid of both of those. You'd do your whole fossil play, Shadow plays. That would help you break fields apart, set you up with protection. And especially if you're able to go, okay, cool. So normal summon, Quackimiru Guardian, and then activate Shadow Fusion. Your opponent's mind will go, poof. Especially with Shadow Fusion not needing to worry about Ash Blossom, or very rarely will it need to worry about Dominus Impulse. It's like, yo, yeah, this deck is going to be full gas, full aggression. I've bumped up to 3 Kokimiru Guardian just because the points are now there to spare, and I've cut the supply down to 2. So pretty standard on that, not much really. I already mentioned about trying to play 3 Guardians anyway, and I'm actually really happy to just play 3. For the Adamancipators, 3 Researcher and 3 Analyzer. Again, just another reason to kind of be tempted to play the Go Second build, because Analyzer just becomes so free. And what I've really liked about this is that, or the one thing I did have a bit of a concern about was I don't know how many decks are going to end on an extra deck monster. Like if you go to like a big end Genesys event, you're probably going to be facing down Radiance, you're probably going to be facing down Vanquished Souls, and both of those decks don't really need to commit a monster from the extra deck onto the field. So Shaddoll Fusion becomes instantly weaker because you're only playing 2 Shaddoll monsters and you don't ever really want to see any of them in the hand. So that did give a little bit more of a risk and reward. But if you're just going for a local environment and for a bit of fun, I could very easily see you play this as a Go Second build. Then we've got 3 Duo Trion and 3 of the Gem of the Seafront. Again, because I've tried to maintain my access to Drageye, but also the access of being able to use the Seafront if you do get disrupted. This gives you the ability to start off with Kokimiru Guardian. It gives you the ability to get Kokimiru Guardian into play later on in the turn as well. But this would be another one that if I wanted to sacrifice for the Shaddoll cards, I would take out the 3 Gem of the Seafront, and then that's where you'd start opening up to the full losses, the Shaddoll Fusion. So what I'll do at the end of this video, or like at the end of the profile, is I'll break apart the cards that I would say, these are your Shaddoll cards, these are what you could sacrifice for if you wanted to go second. And then the final cards in the main deck is 3 Bonding and the 1 Induction. I mean, a 3 and a 1, like these, no-brainer at 3. Like the fact you can use each of its effects once is... and then Induction, I still think is a really, really good card that would cause a lot of issues. So just for the main deck, like the side deck and an extra deck and everything will be adapted, but I feel you got 3 Shaddoll Fusions there. You've then got, I'd probably still keep the supplier to be honest, because you still want your Adamancipators to resolve. But you'd put your 3 suppliers there, your 3 Shaddoll Fusions there. You'd go Dragon, not Dragon, sorry, you'd go Beast and you'd go Hedgehog. And then you'd play Fossil Fusion, and then the monster that searches you out, your Fossil Fusion. So that's kind of what I would go for in the main deck. They're the 7 cards that you would cut. And then those would be the 7 cards you put in. I think it could work. The only difference is, not that this deck plays any interruption. Like the way I've built this deck is to be aggressive. Like there's less interactions to worry about in Genesys, and this deck can very easily end, like eat up an Omni Negate that's been left by our opponents. And what you find with Genesys is that the end fields are massively less impressive in regards to like Modern. So usually you end on like 1 Omni Negate, and that's just enough to do it. And Dark Rule No More does run around rampant, which is why I quite like the idea of making this deck as a Go Second build. Just so you can be like, I don't care about Dark Rule No More, which is one of the deck's weaknesses. And because you don't use any additional points to make this a Go Second build, you can very easily put an Arturo Beast where you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to break your field. I can't OTK, but I'm going to be able to now set up a Nat Beast, which means you can't play. So that's something for you to consider if you wanted to. Like I said, I would probably keep everything the same, and these would become the 7 cards that I mentioned. Now, just so that I've got the information correct for you. So, bear me 2 seconds. I would play Fossil Machine Skull Convoy, which is a rock monster in your graveyard plus a level 7 or higher monster. And then while you control this Fusion Summon card, all monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to their original defense. And this card can make up to 3 attacks on monsters during the battle phase. And then when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So like that would be a no-brainer. Like you'd have to play that. The other one that you'd consider is the Fossil Warrior Skull King. Must be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. It can make a second attack during each battle phase. And if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. During your opponent's turn, you get a quick effect, target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard a card, and if you do, special summon it. And then you'd play the 1 Weathering Soldier, and the reason you'd only need to play 1 of that is you activate Shaddoll Fusion, send it, and when it's sent to the graveyard via card effect, you get to search out Fossil Fusion. And then Fossil Fusion lets you Fusion Summon into a fossil monster by using either player's graveyards, which is really cool. So that's what I would take out for that, and then I'll show you what I'll take out in the extra deck as well. So for the extra deck, I've got my 3 Ultimate Slayer targets. Fossil Warrior Skull Knight is just the aggressive Elder Entity Ints, but you could very easily play the Elder Entity and the Tis in here, because now we've got the 3 points to do so. Aggregator and Malong, pretty straightforward. I still kept the Exciton Knight. I just think that it's one of them fail-safe buttons of being able to hit it, and then that will cause your opponent a lot of issues. Still playing the Gallant Granite. I think this is still really too important in the deck, because as your building combo, it can either search you out a normal summon if you haven't needed to use your normal summon. So like Analyzer, Excavate 4, get a level 4, overlay both of those, Gallant Granite, detach, search out, and off you go. But it can also search you out a Kokimiru Garden if you want protection for an extension play, but it also gives you access to Researcher as well. For the Synchros, Chen Ying, still got the Dragite, but I feel you could sacrifice this one, but I'd massively play this in a go second build. Because just again, all I need is for my opponent to control a monster on the extra deck. So I can just go Analyzer, summon a level 4, Synchro into Dragite, Dragite activates 4s, returns as many cards as you possibly can get away with, bar a monster from the extra deck, activate Shadow Fusion, and off you go. FA Dawn Dragster, the only other card that takes up points in this deck at 20 points apiece. So all of your points, apart from the Kokimiru Garden, which is 9 points in the main deck, you take up 77 points just in these 3 cards here, which is crazy. But this one is an absolute must, and then I think these are really down to preference. This definitely, if you want to go for the go second build, you could then sacrifice the FA Dawn Dragster should you want to. But this is mainly Analyzer plus your beta. So I could see where you might be like, a little less relevant, a little less consistent doing that. Maybe I won't play that one, but entirely up to you. Coral Dragon, I still think it's a really good one. Charge Warrior is another option, but I like the fact this is a tuner because then it can lead me into my 10s. Raptite, I still think is really good for those excavations, extensions, and plays. And then Draco Berserker at the 10U. Then for the fusions, 2 Conductor Warrior, 1 Flux, and 1 Imperium. So to find the space in this extra deck for your Shadow cards and like your fossil cards, you're going to need to find 3 spaces. They can either be your Ultimate Slayer targets, which I wouldn't be opposed to because you'd ultimately end up taking out your 3 Ultimate Slayers in your side deck. You'd open up the 3 spaces in the main deck, and then you could add in 3 Nibiru's in the main deck if you wanted to. But the issue was the main deck got quite clogged when you started to add all of this. You had to sacrifice a little bit more. So then when you're looking at stuff like that, you could also, as I've already mentioned, get rid of the FA Dawn Dragster. It would free up some points for you to put into your side deck if you wanted to, and kind of go down that route. So that's it for the extra deck. Just off the top of this one, like I said, if you're going second, I would afford to you would sacrifice the Imperium, so that becomes your Shekanaga. And then again, going second, this is a really good card as well. But going second, I would then consider, like if I was just going to go for 1 turn OTK, you could afford to get rid of one of these, but honestly, I wouldn't. If you wanted to lean into the OTK heavily, again, you've got your 3 Ultimate Slayer targets. But I still think Ultimate Slayer is just such a great card in Genesys. So you could sacrifice these if you wanted to. The other ones that I would sacrifice is probably Exton Knight, just because if you're always going to go second, you don't need to rely on the Exton Knight as much. It's still great going second, don't get it wrong, but if I'm looking for 3 spaces to arguably cut and make the deck better, and I wanted to keep Ultimate Slayer targets in, you're probably leaning more towards that than anything else. And then you might argue the Dragite, but honestly, if I had to choose between Dragite and FA Dawn's Dragstar, I'd be choosing the Dragite. Otherwise, I'd probably sacrifice the Chen Ying. But then if you're going to sacrifice the Chen Ying, you're not playing anything that's of high levels to synchro into, so you could afford to swap the Coral Dragon out for a Charge Warrior. And the reason you do that is the only way that you would get the Coral Dragon off the field would be to use a non-tuner level 2 to go into a Dragite or to go into a Berserker, which doesn't exist in this deck, so you'd then be able to go, cool, that would be a Charge Warrior, and the Charge Warrior comes in and builds on from there. So that's it for the main deck, and the extra deck for the side deck is pretty staple. I'm pretty sure it's the same as the last one. So 3 Dark World No Mores, 3 Gamma Seals, Twin Twisters, DD Crows, and Ultimate Slayers. So with these 18 points I've got left, this is what I'm trying to figure out is where I want to use them. And ultimately, if I go for the go second Fossil Warrior and Fossil build, these could change as well, because I wouldn't then need to play Dark World No Mores. I'd be pushing for an OTK. I would highly consider, not so much evenly matched, but you could consider stuff like Raigekis or Dark Holes or stuff along that line. But what you've got to be careful of is when I lay out the main deck, which I'll do now, you'll see how many monsters it is. So I don't really want to be, I don't even know why I'll show you in monsters. Literally, there's only 4 spells in this entire deck. The rest of it is all monsters. There you go. That's literally it. You're not going to take these out for Shadow Fusions. So then when you're taking your cards out for your Shadow Fusions, you're decreasing your consistency of your Adamancipators. So you're kind of then trying to balance that back out. I wonder how much Sekka's Light is. Let me just have a quick look at Sekka's Light. I think it's quite... No way! Sekka's Light is only 1 point. It's still not worth playing Sekka's Light because these 3 bonding are just incredibly insane. But if you wanted to, you could play a very aggressive Sekka's Light build. then you wouldn't be able to use the Yugioh fusion route. So I don't know, but I really do enjoy magnets. The fact that it's got a lot of flexibility, it probably comes down to, if I'm being totally honest, it'll probably come down to you as a player. If you're like, I don't like Adamancipators, I don't want to play rocks that way, I don't want to play magnets that way, but I want to be aggressive, then you'd 100% play the fossil cards. I think they're really cool. I think they're cool options to utilize. And like I said, I've already kind of explained how the combo would work. So go second, Yugioh fusion, send Hedgehog and Weathering Soldier. Hedgehog would search you out, you'd fuse it into Shekanaga. You would then use Hedgehog to search you out Beast. You would then use Weathering Soldier to search you out your Fossil Fusion. And then, just so that I can read these exactly as it is, at that exact moment in time, you would have you wouldn't have enough to, like, you'd have a rock monster, but then you wouldn't have a level 7 or higher monster, and you wouldn't have a level 7 or higher monster, so you wouldn't be able to make any of those. But all you need to then do is this goes in your graveyard. That's your level 7 or higher monster. So you've got that as a bit of synergy. You would still be able to play Tolusion. Tolusion would be your other bit of synergy. You'd also have, when you start looking into your extra deck, again, another route of being able to utilize your Magnum as well. So if you don't want to turn all your opponent's cards into Earth because you're not going to try and control them that way, then this becomes your other level 8 or level 7 or higher. So there's a lot to consider. So you've got a consistency to do it. And you kind of just build on from there, which I thought was really, really nice. So Fossil Fusion, for everyone that needs to know, fusion summon a Fossil Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from any graveyards, except for materials with a specific graveyard requirement. If you banish monsters from both graveyards, neither player can target that special monster with effect. So if your opponent has a level 7 or higher monster in the graveyard, happy days. But yeah, that's what I still need to test and tweak and get right. But just to kind of give you food for thought and like bits that you can be like, oh, really? I can make magnets that aggressive with fossils instead of Adamancipators? That could be quite worth it. Yeah, that kind of gives you a bit to think about. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this as an update on the Genesys build as well. Like I said, I took this to locals environment. I got first place with it. It was really, really enjoyable. And now I'm just looking for the next stage to take it up one to see how the deck can perform and how I can change it and yeah, go from there. If you want to see the fossil build, then let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll save that for next Genesys Wednesday, or maybe a future Genesys Wednesday, once I've had enough time to kind of test it, trial it out, and kind of get the ratios right the way I want them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you do like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.